Welcome in. Congratulations, Alabama fans. We've had to say that a lot during the Nick Saban era. You are the undisputed college football national champion, and there's probably not even a team that was close to as good as you were this season. Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first years. It's amazing because Discover's accepted at 99% of the places in the U.S. that take credit cards. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2020 Nielsen Report, limitations apply. When we came into this season in college football, many of the questions that were out there included a phrase along the lines of, will we have an asterisk next to whoever the champion is of college football this year? I am here to tell you the answer is no, but we might need to put a star and bold Alabama's name because I think there's a strong argument that this is the greatest champion in the history of college football when you consider all of the different challenges associated with playing college football this year. COVID, the discipline, the necessity of just not living a normal life in order to maintain your eligibility. In addition to being a college kid, you had to be a college kid who made good decisions off the field. And the Alabama leadership was such, not only from the coaches, but from the players. I saw an interesting story, and I think we talked about it a little bit on the radio here. Nick Saban trusted his guys to go home for Christmas and not make bad decisions. And there are a lot of people out there who certainly would not have trusted their team, but I think it speaks to the culture that Alabama football has created, that Nick Saban could go for 12 years at Alabama and win 6 national championships. And I believe this is the best Alabama football team he has ever had in his entire time there. And what we saw from Devontae Smith in the first half when effectively Alabama put this game away. Now, look, they kept scoring and they could have kept adding as many points basically as they needed to, no matter what the situation was in general. But the truth of the matter is this. Alabama was infinitely better than Ohio State. And I know Buckeye fans, you got the Trey Sermon injury early, and Justin Fields wasn't 100%. But your defense never really stopped Alabama all night. You had the one fumble from Mac Jones in the first half. Otherwise, they only punted once in the first half, and that was basically because they got the ball back with 45 seconds left. You held them to one field goal in the third quarter, but then otherwise they took right back over, came back down, got 2 touchdowns, and by early part of the fourth quarter, they had already hung 52 points on you. This was a name-the-score game. Nobody in the Ohio State secondary could cover Devontae Smith. They couldn't cover anybody else either. Mac Jones nearly had 400 yards passing in the first half. Devontae Smith had more total yards in the first half than the entirety of Ohio State did. I mean, this was a beatdown of epic proportions. I'm not sure, to be honest, that Ohio State ever had a real chance in this game. And that's no slight against Ohio State, who played a whale of a game on New Year's Day against Clemson. But I believe this is Nick Saban's best Alabama team. And I think if you look at all of the complexities and all of the challenges of a COVID era, keep in mind what Alabama did. They beat everybody in the regular season, the 10 regular season games they played, by 15 or more points. They dominated against Notre Dame, and then they absolutely obliterated Ohio State to such an extent that the only team that ever was really close to them was Florida, and even that game wasn't that close. If you were an Alabama Crimson Tide fan, effectively you could watch every game this year with your team, and in the second half never really be nervous that your team was going to lose. And I don't remember ever watching a team in college football where that was the case. There was no moment really, certainly in the fourth quarter, for Alabama football really this year where you ever desperately thought we've got to have a play now here if we're going to win this game. They had game control of every game they played this year. And the amount of talent and the differential that existed between them and Ohio State wasn't really an indictment of Ohio State. There was that talent gap that everybody Alabama played all year between them. And I give credit to Ohio State. They didn't quit, right? It wasn't like they were overmatched and the team just fell apart and they had no interest in being on the field. Alabama was just a lot better. And I think even Buckeye fans sitting around watching, I mean, you just don't get used to watching your team get beaten like Alabama beat them. And Alabama, if they had needed to, I think they could have scored 70 points on Ohio State last night. And so the question, how good are they? I think they're one of the greatest teams of all time. And it's crazy. I think we're underrating Alabama potentially a little bit because of how great LSU was last year. I mean, think about the 15-0 LSU team with Joe Burrow last year was so incredibly good that I think a lot of people out there thought to themselves, okay, we've never seen a college football team like this. In fact, I think last year at this time, when I came on Tuesday morning down in New Orleans, I was telling you, hey, I think LSU is the greatest team I've ever seen, and certainly Joe Burrow had the greatest quarterback season I've ever seen. But if you look at the quality of the wins that Alabama has and the way that they beat everybody in the method that they did, I think there is a strong argument that Alabama is as good, if not the best team in the history of college football, and that this is Nick Saban's best team. Now, defensively, they were not on the same level as some of the incredibly elite Alabama defenses, but offensively, I mean, we're talking about a team that nobody could stop. They basically hung 50 on everybody. It didn't matter who they played, and the defense just kept getting better over the course of the season, such that nobody ever really gave them a chance. Nobody ever really gave them a game. You know, everybody went after Notre Dame after Notre Dame got waxed on January 1st in the playoff. Alabama beat Ohio State a lot better than they beat Notre Dame. Let's be honest. I mean, Notre Dame at least made Alabama work a little bit. Ohio State never really put Alabama in any kind of danger at all once we got to, 35-17, I think it was at the half. That game was over. There was absolutely nothing more to worry about from Ohio State. And that's no insult to Ryan Day or Justin Fields or anybody else. I think Ohio State is an elite caliber team, but Alabama is just on a different caliber than everybody else was in college football this year. And I think this is Nick Saban's best team, and I think Nick Saban now is the greatest college football coach of all time. I really do mean that.